In the most surprising twist of the decade. In the most surprising twist thus far of the decade, it turns out Canadians have a backbone, or at least the makings of one, as we have seen over the past week with the Canadian trucker convoy, which the media has gone from pretending either doesn't exist or is a small, tiny group, including Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who has called this particular convoy a fringe minority, which comes to bite him later on in this story. Oh, and we'll get to that. But the media has gone from saying that it doesn't exist or is such a small thing that it really isn't even worth note, to now saying that it is the new January 6th. And
I don't know if it's far-fetched to ask, but there is concern that Russian actors could be continuing to fuel things as this protest grows, but perhaps even instigating it from the outset.
They are committing an insurrection on the legitimate Canadian government, which, in the funniest memes that have been coming out over the past week, has been leaned into a bit with people renaming Canada to its proper naming of Truckistan. And, oh boy, this, I'm generally not one who concerns myself with foreign politics. You'll see that I have been avoiding talking about the whole Ruskies Ukraine thing over the past week or two. Specifically for this, I just hate foreign policy as a general rule and mostly want to stick with domestic policy. But in this case, the funny-o-meter has reached the apex, and so I needed to talk about this. I needed to talk about the Truckistan takeover because it has been incredibly funny, and the funniest part of it has to be Prime Minister Blackface's response to it, where he begins by basically pretending it doesn't exist, then goes on to commenting on it and saying it's only a fringe minority that really is just being loud and isn't as big of a deal as it made out to be, to then mysteriously going silent and isolating himself after a negative COVID test, not even a positive one, which, if it had been left there, I might not have talked about this, because though it is funny to see Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister Blackface, as previously mentioned, running for the hills at the sign of people who actually want to have bodily autonomy, it's not quite enough for me to reach the funny-o-meter's overflow barrier to actually get me to talk about it. But it went a bit farther than that, because later on, just what I saw today when I'm recording this video, the Prime Minister has now literally gone into hiding, not because of COVID this time, but instead specifically because of the trucker convoy. And it's the funniest thing ever. And of course, there's the requisite Fed posting that's going on surrounding the trucker convoy, because much of the federal government, I presume, in Canada is not particularly happy with this trucker convoy and wants to set up a, let's call it a counter-narrative, to try and combat this, to make them seem more like fringes. And so you had people showing up with swastikas and Confederate flags for some reason. I don't know. It'd make more sense to show up with the Union Jack, frankly. And other such nonsense going on. You had people being loud, which it wasn't Fed posting, but led to some of the funnier reactions from metropolitan leftoids with the literal coping and seething in their bedrooms posting going on, and lots of other funny things were happening over this trucker convoy, and it is just hilarious. And I cannot wait for them to come to the US side of the border, because oh man, I am I'm chuffed to bits about this particular, to take a British phrase, I am very happy about this particular trucker convoy. I mean, it could go down in flames. You could have the Fed posting intensify and have another literal Jan 6 happen, you know, have a false flag event and that sort of thing. And I wouldn't put it past Justin Trudeau, Governor Blackface, to do that exact sort of thing. I mean, it's not exactly out of his character and the character of his maybe father to do that sort of thing. And so, it could happen that way, but at least where it stands now, I'm in full support. This is a wonderful thing, and there have been thousands and thousands of people, and just to destroy the media narrative, particularly from people like Snopes, there has been drone footage of verifiably the actual protests of thousands of people walking around Ottawa and other such Canadian towns, showing just how many people are actually in support of this particular trucker convoy. Now, it's hard to get a full picture on the entire trucker convoy itself, and so the numbers of that are nebulous at best, whether you believe the higher numbers or the lower numbers. But regardless, this is a massive movement. It's something that is great. It's something that is actually useful and functional, because this is not a violent protest. This is just a peaceful protest of the vaccine mandates and all of those sorts of things, which I won't get into here because YouTube. And so I'm not going to get too deeply into that, other than to say I am against mandates of medical procedures in general, no matter what they are. And that's it. That's all I'm going to say on that topic. And so I am in favor of this protest. It's perfectly legal, at least in terms of any reasonable laws. And more importantly, it is an ethical protest. It is something that is morally good to do, to protest these sorts of authoritarian mandates. And so I am in support of this particular, especially since we have gotten a lot of funnies with, once again, Justin Trudeau running and fleeing for the hills, and running and hiding in a bunker from the base chads outside because they're too scary. Too scary. All the honking. Oh no. It's too funny. But I think that's where I'm going to leave you guys off. If you enjoyed that video, do subscribe down below and check me out on other new tech platforms. I'm on BitChute, I'm on Brighteon, I'm on Odyssey, I'm on Rumble, I'm on all of those places. I suggest you go check out all of those links are down in the description. Also check out my Minds, my Gab, and my Getter page for any updates or other text posts and that sort of thing. I'm KelKidman. This has been Breaking on the Daily. Don't be square.